welcome to Biz RoundUp. I am Tamiru Nimzat, and we at our television bring you a collection of business highlights. Let's have a look at the headlines. Hambantota International Airport gets new duty-free shopping complex. IMF review of Sri Lanka will take place in 6 months' time, official says. Government eyes on new labour laws, Subject Minister reveals. News in detail. The Hambantota International Port launched its first duty-free complex with the aim to grow the duty-free business in catering to the vessels calling the port. 2 duty-free shops were opened at the brand new shopping complex last week.
The port's duty-free complex, which is housed under the International Commercial Centre, will provide integrated support to all the port's business platforms. The duty-free shop operators will be an essential value addition to overseas passengers and crews, as Hambantota expects more passengers and cruise vessels. The port is rapidly progressing in the development of the port services such as the industrial park, marine services, energy hub and integrated logistics. Improved port services will automatically increase tourist and investor footfall and require more end-to-end services to be offered. Chairman of China Merchants Group Miao Jamin, who was on an official visit to Sri Lanka recently, also toured the Hambantota International Airport duty-free complex. The 2 companies that run the operations are well established in the duty-free industry within the country. Their operations have extended to various ports in the country as well as international markets with their presence in the Maldives. It was announced that they will also expand its product range at the duty-free shop at Hambantota International Airport.
Purchasing managers' indices for manufacturing and services activity had decreased in the month of April according to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. This information was revealed in the monthly Purchasing Managers Index report published by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka recently.
According to the CBSL, manufacturing PMI decreased to 34.7 in April 2023, indicating a month-on-month contraction in manufacturing activities. It was stated that production, new orders, employment and stock of purchases declined during April compared to the seasonal peak in March. Decline in new orders, particularly in the manufacturing of food and beverages, was mainly due to the end of the festival season. Expectations for manufacturing activities for the next 3 months indicated an improvement, anticipating a favorable development in the economic environment. Services sector PMI remained slightly below the neutral threshold, recording an index value of 49.6 in April 2023. New businesses declined in April 2023 compared to the March, particularly with the decreases observed in insurance, transportation and postal and courier services. Further, education and telecommunication also recorded slightly increases during the month. Meanwhile, business activities related to the wholesale and retail trade remained stagnant despite festive demand and seasonal discounts. Employment continued to decline further in April at a higher pace due to registrations, migrations and retirements. Expectations for the business activities for the next 3 months remained improved, driven by positive sentiments regarding improvements in macroeconomic conditions.
The International Monetary Fund says that addressing corruption and improving governance are the key pillars of its supported program to put Sri Lanka on a sustainable path of growth. IMF Director of Asia and Pacific Department Krishna Srinivasan said this at the media briefing held in Colombo on Monday.
Addressing corruption and improving governance is a key pillar of the program. So, one, you can't disentangle the two. So, to the extent that we're addressing these issues in the context of the program, it should give, support to the reform effort. I think when you have a financial crisis, when you have a crisis of this proportion, there's often a permanent loss. But that can be addressed through structural reforms and so on. So the phase we are right now is macro stabilization, macro fiscal stabilization, right? Once that is achieved, and also as part of that concomitantly, we could talk about structural reforms which will help address these longer-term growth issues.
The IMF Director of Asia and Pacific Department, Krishna Srinivasan, also says the supported program is an opportunity for all Sri Lankans to work together through the crisis to restore economic stability and put the country on a sustainable growth path. He said this at the media briefing held in Colombo last Monday.
The reform program supported under the EFF arrangement is built on strong policy measures and prioritizes 5 key pillars. First, an ambitious revenue-based fiscal consolidation. Second, restoration of public debt sustainability. Third, a multi-pronged strategy to restore price stability and rebuild reserves. Fourth, policies to safeguard financial sector stability. And fifth, structural reforms to address corruption vulnerabilities and enhance growth. Sri Lanka is the first country in Asia that has undergone the IMF governance diagnostic exercise. The IMF governance diagnostic report is expected to be published by September this year. Economic impact of reforms on the poor and vulnerable needs to be mitigated with appropriate measures. The IMF-supported program is an opportunity for all Sri Lankans to come together to work through this crisis to restore economic stability and put the country on a sustainable growth path. The key is implementation. The IMF is here to help you along the way.
Stay tuned. We will return after this commercial break.
Ten to 10, sponsored by
Welcome back after the break. President Ranil Wickremesinghe pledges his willingness to assist the upliftment of the Colombo University as planned by its 10-year development program that aligns with the changing times. The President expressed this to the Alumni Association of Colombo University at an event held to commemorate its 40th anniversary in Colombo recently.
Then let's look at how this university can be developed to a higher standard. How are we going to do this? It's partly the responsibility of the academia, other is the responsibility of the alumni. Why shouldn't we get together and prepare a 10-year plan for the development of the University of Colombo? But if there's a plan, then there will certainly be the help to develop it. How are we going to tackle some of the questions? What about our postgraduate studies? These are all issues that we have to address. And I feel the alumni should take the initiative, talk with the university and establish a committee which could prepare a report on the Colombo University in the next 10 years. Now, we are going through a knowledge revolution. We are going through a time when the whole system of teaching is changing. The technology that have brought us, COVID has seen online education. On the other hand, what will be the impact of artificial intelligence in this process? Do you even need exams? That's a question that we have to think and we have to find the answer. So I would suggest that the Alumni Association should do this.
The International Monetary Fund reveals that they expect that the Sri Lankan government will finish the external debt restructuring program by September or October 2023. The IMF Director for Asia and Pacific Department, Krishna Srinivasan, said this at the media briefing held earlier in the week in Colombo.
The authorities are making good faith efforts to negotiate with all the creditors, both private creditors and official creditors, and the engagement is going on quite well. In terms of the timeline, it's the expectation that the restructuring exercise will be completed by the first review of the program, which is in September or October. Just to be very clear, the IMF's role in any debt restructuring exercise like this in the context of a program, we define the macro framework, the debt targets, and so on and so forth. We don't get involved, per se, in any of the debt restructuring negotiations, defining the perimeter of debt, and so on and so forth. That said, any kind of restructuring will need to keep into account to make sure that the financial stability is assured.
Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara announces that the proposal of the Ceylon Electricity Board to revise electricity tariffs has been handed over to the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka. The Power and Energy Minister made this announcement on Twitter on the 15th of May.
The minister said the Ceylon Electricity Board submitted the proposal according to the government's policy decision and tariff filling requirements to adjust the tariffs biannually on the 1st of January and the 1st of July. Minister Vijay Sekhar noted that the CEB has taken into consideration the actual generation data, the actual price of inputs, the generation mix, and the forecast for 2023. He said, according to the proposal, the CEB has given the maximum benefit of adjustment to low consumption users. The move came after the PUCSL chairman Janaka Ratnayaka demanded an immediate 20% reduction in electricity tariff, citing a drop in demand, lower exchange rate, and fuel prices. Ratnayaka last week revealed that according to the tariff requested by CEB on 5th of January, it had estimated an electricity demand of 16,520 gigawatt hours for 2023. He also added that CEB was expecting a revenue of 722 billion rupees from energy sales. As per Ratnayaka, the latest forecast by CEB shows a reduction of 6% from the initial forecast on 5th January. Ratnayaka said the actual total revenue after 2023 for the distribution licensees could be lower than 658 billion rupees. He further added, if PUCSL recommended hike was to be implemented, there wouldn't be need for frequent tariff revision, and it would stimulate for the economic activities and ensure CEB yields sufficient revenue.
Stay tuned. We will return after this commercial break.
State of Business, sponsored by
IWS Aviation.
Welcome back after the break. The International Monetary Fund says that Sri Lanka must decide on how the debt relief will be distributed among the country's various creditors. IMF Mission Chief for Sri Lanka, Peter Brewer, said this at a press conference held recently in Colombo.
Our role is to ensure that whatever debt restructuring strategy the authorities decide on is consistent with the debt targets that are designed for Sri Lanka to restore debt sustainability. So as such, we don't have any particular view on how the burden should be distributed across creditors, whether they're external or domestic. Having said that, we do have a keen interest to ensure that the domestic economy and the domestic financial system continue to work and are stable. So those are the aspects that we would focus on that in the discussions. It's up to the authorities to decide, how to distribute the burden of debt relief across all these different creditors. Yeah.
Director of Communications of the IMF, Julie Kozak, said the International Monetary Fund will review Sri Lanka in another 6 months as the country is placed on a semi-annual review basis. She said this answering questions at the press briefing held recently in Colombo.
Julie Kozak said that the IMF team, who is currently visiting Sri Lanka, are only on a technical mission, and the first review of the program will take place later on this year. The director said IMF with the World Bank and India have established a global sovereign debt roundtable to reach common ground and to accelerate the debt restructuring process. The director said IMF assessed that 15% of low-income countries are in debt distress and another 45% of low-income countries are at the risk of the same fate. Julie Kozak also added that the IMF's only focus is on supporting the countries that are facing a debt distress scenario. She expressed support to the G20 Common Framework, which aims to deliver debt relief to countries with debt levels that are unsustainable. The IMF Director of Communications also pledged to help advance and accelerate progress within the G20 framework.
Labour and Foreign Minister Manushana Nayakkara calls on all stakeholders to strengthen the government's efforts to create more comprehensive labour law reforms. The minister made these remarks at the third session of Influx, a public consultation platform organised by the Labour Ministry seeking public views to amend labour law.
Labour Minister Manushana Nayakkara extended an open invitation to all trade unions, political parties and other stakeholders to participate in the ongoing public consultations related to the amendment of labour laws. The minister added that these suggestions and comments can be submitted in writing or by participating in person. The minister states that the main objective of the new platform is to change the labour law, which is over 100 years old. He assured that neither the International Labour Organization nor any other international organization has not told the government to change the labour laws in the country. He also mentioned that no document has been prepared regarding the reforms so far. He also pointed out that the number of institutions that pay EPF and ETF is about 80,000. Further, there are only about 2 million workers registered in EPF and ETF. There are only 280,000 tax-paying institutions in the country, including those that pay tax. The minister emphasized that the failure to develop the workforce to suit the changing times and technologies, the country will fail.
With that, we wind up for today. For this and more, subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. See you tomorrow with State of Business at 7:45 p.m. Take care and good night.